everyone, I am Matt Williamson, at Williamson NFL. Give me a follow. I appreciate all the responses. Things have been picking up, and you guys are getting all kinds of excited, I think, for Combine and Draft and off-season, and maybe even gotten over a little the bitterness of how the Steelers season ended. But I'm recording this on Sunday because all day Monday I am driving to Indianapolis, traveling, and doing a show from there, and just won't have time. So you're going to get this one, skip a Monday recording. I'll get back to recording things on Tuesday. But names I want you to know going into Combine week at the running back position. I want to talk about my top 5 running backs. And we did quarterbacks the other day. First off, this running back class is loaded. High-end talent, depth. From a Steeler perspective, they're aware of this, of course, as every team is. I absolutely think they let Najee go and look for a similar rugged 220-plus banger type. That being said, there's so many good backs in this draft, and to put it in context, Mel Kiper said the other day that he has 35 draftable grades on running backs this year. And if you're not familiar with how the draft works through 7 rounds, 35 backs will not be drafted. So really pay attention to, even if they use a second or third round pick on a running back, the guys they sign is undrafted guys. But I've been throwing this out there too. Like, I wouldn't mind, because there's such a wealth at this position, to get a banger like we talked about, the Najee type guy. And maybe in the 7th round, 6th round, something like that. Maybe you pick up a 190-pound dynamic receiver, weapon, pass catcher, returner. You know, instead, Cordell Patterson shouldn't be back. He's going to get cut, and you're going to save a lot of cap space there. But if you could find one of these backs that should have got drafted in round 5 in the 7th round and take 2 of them this year, have an explosive offensive playmaker along with the banger, along with Warren, which you don't know if he'll be back or not after this upcoming year, that also can be your returner. And maybe that guy can even reinvent himself and run that on kickoffs and things like that. I mean, Benny Snell did that. A lot of these guys do that at the next level to make the team. I think that would make a lot of sense. So absolutely think draft with the Steelers running back needs. Now, I want to be the first to say this, though. There's one free agent that I think I would at least be interested in, and that's Nick Chubb. I think you could get him super cheap coming off a brutal injury that he suffered against the Steelers. And I don't even know if he'd make the team, league minimum 1-year deal. But boy, if you struck gold with that guy, he was so good. And it's a year removed from that injury. I'm just putting it out there. It just kind of came across me a couple days ago. I've been meaning to put it out in this space, and I haven't yet brought it up to anyone. Just because I think this running back class is so good that I can't imagine going the free agent route. But for that guy, who was one of the best 2 or 3 ball carriers in the league not long ago, maybe. All right, speaking of elite ball carriers, I want to talk about the top guy. And I'm sure you're aware by now, it's Ashton Genty from Boise State. He's like 5'9-ish, 215. He's unbelievable. I mean, he's Bijan Barkley-like talent, prospect. Yards after catch, or yards after contact, is elite. Like, he has more yards after contact than like anyone in the NCAA has yards, period. I mean, if he just had his stats from yards after contact, it would be one of the better seasons in NCAA history, just from that. He's a great receiver, low center of gravity, awesome player. If you really want to pick nits, he's not great in protection, but why would Boise State have their way far and best weapon in their protecting? You want to throw him the football. That doesn't mean he can't do it, but he's also a little shorter arms. And I bring this up by himself just for this reason, that position value aside, and we know running backs are going to be a value, and that's how I opened the show, and they always are. I would take him at 21. I would not trade up for him. I don't think he's going to be there at 21, but I think you have to have that conversation. And my logic behind it is, I think he's the best player in the draft. I mean, I think it's either him or Travis Hunter is the best player in the draft. Just putting grades on a player, not position value, any of that stuff. And the comparisons, and I think you guys know me, I'm not big on everyone. When people say comparisons, it's always some unbelievable player. But in this instance, the LaDainian Tomlinson comparisons, I think, are spot on with Genty. And if you can give me a LaDainian Tomlinson-like prospect in a run-first offense with the 21st pick in the draft, I'm in. But that's the only running back I would consider at 21 as it stands right now going into the combine. But special players, you just get and you feed them the football. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting in 2025. Whether you're a seasoned fan or a first-time bettor, BetOnline is your ultimate game day companion. With the largest selection of odds on everything from NBA to college basketball to NHL to UFC, BetOnline continues to be your number one sports betting source. From every three-pointer to hat trick, BetOnline has you covered with odds, stats, and more for every game, every play, and every win. BetOnline, the game starts here. All right, let's get back to my list. And there is, as you would imagine, a gap between 1 and 2 because Genty is special. But Omarion Hampton from North Carolina, many years would be the number one back in the draft. I like him a lot. 6'1", 220-ish. Big playability. I mean, that's what they've missed with Najee, is when he gets in the open space, he takes it to the house. He's a physical downhill runner. Dishes out contact, so-so in protection, and he's not real stick his foot in the ground, Barry Sanders niftiness. You know, he's more of a slasher, but he's going to be a feature back in the league with home run potential and physicality. I think he's someone you'd love to see fall to round 2, but probably won't, but I'm not willing to spend the 21st pick on him. If you were to do a big trade down and pick up a lot of other picks, I could maybe then see him being your first pick for the Steelers, early second round, something like that. But I can't use 21 on him just because there's so many backs. Now, this list is kind of generic. It's not Steeler-centric. And I don't know that I would have Travion Henderson from Ohio State as my number 3 Steeler back, just because he's a smaller guy. But he's not small. He's like 205 pounds, 5'10", big-time recruit, as you would imagine. He was awesome in the college playoffs when leading Ohio State to the championship. Fast, explosive, big play. I don't think he will be a massive workload guy, but he'll be probably a true 50-50 split like he was at Ohio State with Quinshon Judkins, who was more of the banger. I'll get to him in a minute. You'd love to add a big play threat like Henderson to the Steelers. Really good receiver as well. Really good in protection, which is incredible. But I just don't know that you can afford that luxury. Maybe the roster looks different when this thing rolls around, but I think he goes somewhere in the top 40 picks. I'm just not sure I can get there with a smaller part-time back. A guy I like that fits the outside zone system is Iowa's Caleb Johnson. Little tall, not like Eddie George, but kind of has that feel to him in terms of a little bit taller, a little bit of an upright style, body beautiful. He's not as good as Eddie George. Eddie George is awesome, but huge season for the Hawkeyes. He can run a little high, real good vision, patience, zone scheme runner that I think the Steelers would like a lot. Also not a real dynamic, shifty athlete, but he's got long speed, hit it and go. You'll love his highlights. And if you penciled him in the second round, I would understand it if you're willing to go running back that early. I mentioned Judkins at Ohio State. He also is a banger. Real curious what Johnson and Judkins run in Indy. But Judkins, to me, looks a lot more like Najee in terms of big playability. I don't see him running away from people in the open field, at Ohio State, so probably won't in the AFC North. But boy, he's a good goal line back. He's good feet, changes directions well for a big back. You can feed him the ball over and over and over. Highly competitive. He would fit the mold here well. It's kind of a younger Najee, more or less. So again, those are my top 5. But other names to know, mid-round dudes. Damian Martinez is a real bruiser from the U. Cam Scatabo, I bet, is somebody you guys have been a little bit familiar with. Some people are worried about, is he taken too much beating already? But he is fun to watch in all facets. Bracial Tootin from Virginia Tech is a fumbler, but he's going to test out of this world and is a real explosive type guy. LaQuint Allen from Syracuse, an excellent receiver. Dylan Sampson's kind of like the Henderson mold from Ohio State. Little smaller, part-time player, but explosive. One of my favorite mid-round guys is Jordan James from Oregon. Only a 1-year starter because the guys ahead of him were really strong, but had a heck of a year. So there's a lot to pick from at the running back position. I only scratched the surface. We could go 10 more deep of, 5th round guys and later that would help you a lot. And I wouldn't mind in some way, shape, or form, whether it's a draft and undraft and a free agent from this class, but I'd like to add 2, considering the Steeler backfield. Send Patterson on his way. Warren be your top guy, at least for a little, and mix and match and see what happens when you get to camp. All right, everyone. I will be reporting from Indy here next time you hear from me. Over and out.